Alright, so in this video we're learning about the circulatory system. We should already know the main function of the circulatory system. So most animals need to transport things around their body, and that's the main job of the circulatory system. It's all about transport. So the main things that we transport through our bloodstream in the circulatory system is oxygen, which we need for all our cells to survive. We also transport carbon dioxide because that's a waste product that we don't need anymore, and that goes to the lungs and then back out of our body. And we also transport nutrients and food particles, which we've eaten and that we've absorbed in our digestive system. So the circulatory system is vital. It transports everything that we need around our body. So let's look at the different structures within our circulatory system. We probably know the main parts already. So let's look on this diagram firstly. So probably the most important organ is the heart. That's the big pump in the middle of our body that pushes all these liquids around the circulatory system. You can also see here there's red tubes and blue tubes. So the circulatory system is basically a whole lot of pipes filled with liquid, and the heart pumps that liquid around the body. And there's two different types of pipes, and we'll look at them in a second. The blue ones are called veins, and the red ones are called arteries. And you can't see it on this large diagram, but over here you can see the difference. If we have an artery here, and then we have a vein on this side, well, the veins and arteries are actually joined in between by these tiny little tubes, and they're called capillaries. So there's no ends to the circulatory system, it's just one big loop. The blood goes out of the heart and then all the way around back to the heart again. So let's look at a few more details about how everything works. So the heart's job is to pump the blood around the body. And the blood is the liquid containing all those nutrients, wastes, and oxygen and other things like that. And blood itself is actually made of quite a few different parts. If you've ever donated blood, or you know someone who does, you might know some of these parts. So blood is made of plasma, which is just the liquid part of your blood. It's also made up of red blood cells. That's one of the cells we learnt about in the cells topic. They carry oxygen and carbon dioxide to our cells that need them. Mainly oxygen. And there's also lots of white blood cells in there as well. And they fight infections. They're like the police force of the body. There's also a few other things like platelets and lots of other molecules, but they're the main three components. So when we go back and look at the arteries, so blood starts in the heart and then it gets pumped out into the arteries, which are the red tubes. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. Most arteries are red, except for the ones coming to the lungs, but we'll learn more about that when we learn about the heart. In general, arteries carry fresh blood with fresh oxygen away from the heart. And the veins do the opposite. They bring blood back to the heart again. Bring the blood back to the heart. So the veins, they're normally blue because there's not much oxygen in the blood, and blood turns a bluey colour when it doesn't have as much oxygen, and so that blood comes back to the heart and then back to the lungs again where it gets fresh oxygen. There's also a couple of key differences between arteries and veins. You can see in the diagram here, arteries, it's a bit hard to see here, but arteries have a thicker wall than veins because they're under a lot more pressure. You would have heard of blood pressure. That's because the heart is pushing the liquid through the arteries under pressure. Veins are thinner, and they also have valves here, which you can see in the diagram. And that's because there's not as much pressure in the veins, and the blood can flow backwards if it didn't have these valves to close it off and to stop that blood flowing backwards. Prevent backwards blood flow. Alright, so this diagram at the bottom here is a good summary of what happens in the circulatory system. So we've got the heart in the middle. It pumps blood from all the organs. It pumps the blood into the lungs. Then the lungs pump the blood back to the heart again. Then the heart pumps the blood out of the heart to all the different organs around the body, because every organ needs oxygen and needs nutrients. And that's what all these red arteries are showing. And then the blood reaches the capillaries, and all the cells take the oxygen and the carbon dioxide that they need. So they take all the oxygen and they produce carbon dioxide, and then all those waste products come back from the organs back to the heart again, and the heart pumps it to the lungs again, and we start the cycle again. So it's just a loop that continues over and over, so all our cells get the nutrients and the oxygen that they need.